Hey everybody, it's Robert Dinan, your Florida Realtor. We're here on our podcast, All Things Luxury Florida, luxury living in Florida. I have a special guest today, Raymond Carota, founder and owner of Brandywine Financial Investment Group here in Sarasota. He is a registered investment advisor for over 25 years and is going to give us some great insights on what's happening with the current marketplace, some things that we should look forward to in the market, and some things to watch out for. Ray also does some educational series here with the State Florida College, so look out for those. I think he's got a class coming up shortly. But I'd like to introduce Ray Carota. How are you, buddy?
Great.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks
for being here.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you and appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself quickly, the
Sure.
quick elevator speech, right?
Absolutely. So I'm a financial advisor. I've been in the wealth advisory business for 27 years now. I can't believe I'm even saying that.
I missed it by 2 there. So
You
25.
did. I started off with American Express Financial Advisors actually when I was in college. This is all I've ever done. The only thing I've ever done in my life is stocks, economics, and finance. And I learned from a very young age the importance of money because my parents growing up, my mother and my stepfather, they used to, I don't want to say argue, but they would converse a lot about money. And I never understood why money was such a big topic. And I didn't grow up poor. I didn't grow up rich, but I didn't grow up poor.
Right.
So at a very young age, I said, I need to understand why they're always talking about money. So when I went to college, I studied economics and finance. And in my senior year of college, I was hired by American Express Financial Advisors to...
so that's when American Express was really just getting into that marketplace.
It was.
Really?
They bought IDS Life back in the 90s. And then they were starting with a mutual fund company, and then they combined them all and became American Express Financial Advisors back then. So I wanted to learn about money. And then while I was learning about money at American Express Financial Advisors, I learned a few valuable lessons. And that lesson that they taught me was that they want us to sell their own products. And always, right. And it was push
in a past life, I wore a different hat too. I was a certified financial planner. I worked with originally Connecticut Mutual as a kid out of college, and then it became Mass Mutual. But of course, sell our product just like the banks want you to sell their mortgages. And that's the thing where the degree of separation comes along with you.
That's right. So one of my first meetings that I ever brought on with a prospect, I was sitting in the meeting and I had done all this beautiful presentation. And my manager was sitting to my right and the clients and the husband and wife were sitting across from me. And I put this beautiful layout, these mutual funds, this life insurance, and all these products.
A full financial plan.
A full financial plan, right. Wealth management solution, we'll call it, right? And the client says to me, Raymond, I love everything you put together here, except for one thing. And he said, why are you only recommending American Express products?
Interesting.
And I looked over at my manager, and I looked back at the client, and I looked at the manager, and I looked at the client, and I remember saying, we could pay more to do it. And my manager immediately kicked me under the table. And I knew at that moment that I wasn't going to stay with American Express Financial Advisors very long. So he pushed everything back across the table to us. He said, look, I love you. You're a great guy, but I want you to come back to me.
Hey, honesty. You were honest.
Yeah, I was honest.
100% honest.
Exactly.
You know, I make more money. What are you going to tell you, buddy?
And his bonus,
is
bigger. Yeah, and his bonus is bigger. That's
right.
why he just kicked me. So I went back to him 2 weeks later with non-American Express related financial products, and he hired me on the spot. And that was my first idea that, all right, I'm not going to be at American Express long. So I was there for 9 months.
Okay.
And me and 4 other gentlemen that were in my office decided, look, we need to be independent if we're going to really give unbiased advice to our clients that we want to represent. So we opened up an office.
Because everybody's depiction of what wealth is different.
Everybody
has a different goal and mission to get to that.
And there's no one silver bullet. Yeah, there's no one silver bullet. You know, everybody puts, I'm going to put all my money into this annuity, and I cringe when I see people to do that. So we opened up an office across the street. I went independent. Started with a company called LPL Financial Services, and we could offer and sell everything and anything on the planet. And that's when I kind of delved into the fee-based side of the business, where we don't have to sell people things for a commission. You can actually provide solutions to help people build the foundation for their financial independence. And that was the independent side of the industry that I got on. And I've been independent ever since. I had my own RIA, Registered Investment Advisor, ever since 2003.
Which is very impressive. It's a very impressive thing.
It's a tough industry.
It's a tough industry.
It's a tough gig.
And 25 years in that industry shows your commitment and your lack of not wavering through all the highs and lows that we've seen in the last 25 years. It's been crazy.
I've been through .com bust. I've been through real estate bust. And this is what I'm calling the biggest bubble of all. We are sitting in the middle of the biggest financial bubble of all.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that? What are your thoughts on this? What's happening, and what should people be cautious of right now, and what's going on? Everything.
In short,
everything. Yeah.
Be cautious of almost everything. When 08-09 happened, the federal government decided they were going to start a little business called QE, which is called quantitative easing, which is essentially flooding the system with money.
Yeah.
That is created not by
Nixon took us off the gold standard.
Well, we can get into that. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
I know that.
That's a whole other conversation. But that's when I say that the train really came off the rails. When they started QE and printing money and just shoving it into the financial system, well, assets took off, and they've never stopped.
That was the starting bell, by the way. Then.
So that was the beginning of what I call the demise of actual free markets and actual price discovery, because if you think about what's happening, look at a company like NVIDIA. Mm-hmm. The thing's trading at 45, 50 times sales. It makes absolutely 0 sense at all. Their revenues for the value of the company makes absolutely no sense at all. Yet the stock seemingly goes up every single day, 5%. And how can that? And now it's a $2 trillion company. I think it wiped off $1 trillion.
$1 trillion? Yeah,
it wiped out $1 trillion. So the valuations don't make any sense.
And how are they getting away with valuations like this then? How does this work? How is this going down in this time and place that we're with all the things that we're supposed to have as far as compliance and big banks and all the way these investments and trying to push people like yourself out of the industry?
Yeah, essentially.
Essentially. Yeah. Why are these things happening? How is it happening?
It's allowed to happen because as long as nobody gets hurt, the government doesn't care.
That's a true statement.
It's very simple, right?
Yeah.
As long as, and when I say people, I don't mean investors. They don't care about it. And anyone that thinks that the SEC is there to protect you or the banking regulators are there to protect us, they're not. They're there to protect the big banks or the hedge funds.
Well, we can go back to the bailouts that happened.
Yeah.
Look at the bailouts that happened. We lose all of our money. If I lost all my money in real estate investments,
you don't get any bailout.
No one's bailing me out.
That's right.
Right, buddy?
That's right. Nope.
I'll take it. Help me.
Nope.
No,
that's
but,
right.
Between myself and a bunch of other people, when you're investing in real estate, it's been the greatest thing for me in my portfolio over time. Things do happen in the real estate space too.
They do.
And we shall see what happens moving forward.
Yeah.
With everything that's happening.
Yeah. And when we hit COVID and they printed whatever they printed, $4, $5 trillion, $6 trillion, you hand out money to citizens and businesses, you're going to have more dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services. Arguably, at that time, it was less goods and services because everybody was locked in their house. We couldn't go anywhere.
Correct.
Right? So people were sitting at home and they had money.
We saw a little bit. It was a little bit nicer in Florida.
Yeah, a little nicer in Florida. Yeah, you guys fared.
Yeah.
I'm from Philly. I just moved down here 2 years ago. Yeah. So, I escaped. I call myself a medical refugee because I moved down here to Florida to get away from the Northeast.
Yeah.
And most people, at least with common sense, figured, all right, well, they're printing that much money. That's going to cause inflation. Yet the Fed, right, the Federal Reserve, were telling us, oh, it's not going to cause inflation. It's going to be transitory. And guys like me that have a brain were saying, how can you print?
Hasn't it always caused inflation when they do that? Time and time again.
The cause of inflation, the very definition of inflation is the expansion of the money supply. That's the basic definition. It's not prices rising.
No, it's not. Everybody thinks its price is going up. Everybody thinks that's inflation. A gallon of milk's costing me $3.95.
So it's because they printed so much more money that caused that price of milk to increase. The expansion of money is what causes the inflation. So, who causes the expansion of money? Well, the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve, of course. Yeah,
and the thing about the Federal Reserve that really bothers me is they're not federal and they have no reserves. And a lot of people don't know
there's no reserves whatsoever.
There's
the old Fort Knox, right?
Right. Which we can't audit. Why can't we audit?
We can't audit Fort Knox.
That's a little weird, isn't it?
It's odd.
That's a little strange.
Yeah.
They have, and a lot
I didn't
of
get
people
the blessing yet.
You didn't get right.
They didn't give me the blessing yet.
That's right. That's right. The Fed is the problem. Mm-hmm. It's the root of all evil in every country in the world. And this kind of gets back to, and I don't know, I don't want to get political here, but if you just think logically, if you think about the countries...
Yeah, we have to talk logically because it doesn't matter which side of the other coin you're on.
No, this
is logic.
That's right. This isn't Republican, Democrat. To me, it's not left wing, right wing. It's the same bird.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't like any of them. That's just where I'm at.
And that's okay. Yeah.
That's where I'm at. So the countries that we tend to bomb, okay, when I say we, I mean the United States, a.k.a. NATO, which is the arm of the U.S. military, right? So we tend to bomb all countries that don't have central banks. So all wars are bankers' wars. That's one of the most important things I can share with anybody listening today. All wars are bankers' wars. It's not because Putin is some evil dictator and he wants land in Ukraine. No, I'm sorry. There's no central bank in Russia.
Correct.
There's also no central bank in Iran, which I don't
want to go into the ruble,
right?
But that's doing very well.
It seems to be doing well, contrary to what the Western propagandist governments are telling us.
Correct. I'll say this, and I'll get in a lot of trouble probably. It's called television for a reason, because it tells you what it wants you to know. That's television. Yeah,
that's correct. And another good piece of advice to people: turn off your TVs. Stop listening to what they're telling you, because you're being lied to on a daily basis. So stop listening. Turn it off. That's all I say about that.
And that's me too. Me too.
Don't turn off.
Make your own opinion. Make your own opinions. And choose. I mean, there's other information out there.
We have lost our critical thinking ability.
Napoleon Hill said this. You know, when he wrote his book, you know, he wrote the book, you know, The Laws of Success. He even said in his book, don't listen to the media. And that was written in the 1900s.
Well, here's where it gets worse, and a lot of people don't know this. During the Obama administration, rewrote a law, I guess we can say one way, or passed legislation is another way to say it, that the government is allowed to tell the American people lies and propaganda. They're allowed to. It's a fact. Go look it up. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people know that. So they're allowed to tell us whatever they want to tell us, regardless of truth. And that's why we are with the media today. Look, we can't trust the media. You can't trust the health administration, the CDC. And I mean, we just went through the past 4 years. Anybody that's not awake yet should start to wake up. That everything we've been told.
Do your own research again. Do your own research.
Right. Critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking. 100%. 100%.
That's it. Critical thinking. And a lot of people they want to take the easy way out, right? Because for our brains, we're so busy in life. We've got kids, we've got dogs, we've got family. The kids are going to soccer and whatever else.
A lot of people are on the wheel.
Yeah. And then you're working to survive, because inflation is now, we've lost 25% of our purchasing power just in the past 2 years. So a lot of people are struggling now, and they don't have time. They want to, all right, what do I have to do? You want me to do this? Okay, great. Oh, there's a virus. I need to take a vaccine. Sure, I'll do that.
Right. So go back to the inflation factor.
Yeah.
So talk to me on that. Do you see, you know, everybody's like, well, the election, this could change, that could change. I mean, to me, it's like, you know, this one's in, that one's in. It's still business as usual. But how do we see a correction in this inflation and the cost of goods? Because to me, and now this is my lifetime, okay? Because that's all I can base it on. I've never seen the price of something come down. If you look at a slice of pizza when I was a kid to what a slice of pizza is now, I sound like an old man right on the park bench. But I used to get 2 slices of pizza for 75 cents and then add a soda for $1. You can't get anything for
man,
you know, $1.
You're old.
I am. I'm an old man. Look at me. You know, you're lucky if you get a slice of pizza and a soda for $5 these days. Yep. I mean, that's a deal.
Yep.
So nothing comes down. So how is this whole thing going to affect the average guy, the average business owner? Because now the price of employees is increasing.
Yep.
The price of them to survive is increasing.
Yep.
I can go really down the rabbit hole on this one, but you know, it's just amazing to me to see what's happening. It's like they're pushing small businesses out of power, out of the place of doing
by design,
and moving people into, you know, an employee status. I mean, I just saw this in my own industry as well as, you know, Dan Henson. We saw this in our industry, you know, with the NRA lawsuit, the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, and that is something that's affecting our industry too, because self-employed individuals, that's another way for government regulations to be involved. And it's interesting to see what's happening. But as far as inflation, what is your
let's start with this. There's lies, damn lies, and government lies.
Okay.
So all the inflation data that the government tells us is completely manufactured.
Okay.
And anybody with, again, common sense, critical thinking ability knows that inflation is not 4, it's not 5, it's not 6. Over the course of the past several years, it's probably been at least 50% plus, depending upon which item you look at. Food, especially food items, are probably up 100%. Oh. I saw a guy on TikTok, he had his $144 Walmart bill from 4 years ago.
I saw that too.
And he decided to push, just repurchase.
Buy the same thing.
Yeah, repurchase it was $414.
Yeah.
Well, that's not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% inflation. Not at all. That's hundreds of percent inflation, right?
Yeah.
Now the government
it was like 389% up of what he paid. What was it, two years ago? Or 3 years
2 or 3 years ago.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's Walmart, right? You know, the deal.
Yeah,
the place that should be the deal.
Right, the low-cost supplier.
Low-cost supplier.
Right, the low-cost supplier. If we know the government numbers are lies, right, that means that everything that number for the government bleeds into is also going to hurt the people, like your Social Security increases. So the people that are collecting Social Security, you're not going to get a 15 or 20% increase in your Social Security check. You're going to get a 4% or 3%. Well, that's not really keeping up with the price of inflation.
Well, because that's, I mean, in planning, right, in financial planning for years, they always, just do 4% for inflation costs. Just do 4% for COLA, right? Those were the costs, but we know that not to be the case.
Right. You can't even use that anymore. You can't, right?
So what do you do for your customers and your clients? I mean, when you're talking about inflation and cost of money or value of the dollar.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I share with clients, and I sent an email out like 2 years ago, and I said, look, inflation is going to be unbelievable. You're really going to need to tighten your budgets a little bit for those people that are on tighter budgets. Now, my job isn't to make people rich, it's to keep you from being poor. That's my job. Some people have think it's the opposite. When you're a financial advisor, you should be buying the next hot stock from me. No, most of my clients have money, some of them are very wealthy, and my job is to keep them that way. Right, and keep them out of trouble from making decisions that they probably shouldn't have made. Like buying NVIDIA at the top. I had a client that just did that. She didn't want to listen to me, and she bought NVIDIA at like 127, 128. Now it's 105, whatever, 103 today, and now she's crying and doesn't want to take the loss. I'm like, look, anyway, full circle on the inflation problem. The headlines always read, "Oh, inflation came down." That's a lie. Inflation didn't come down, it's just going up at a slower rate. So instead of going up at 5, it's going up at 4.5, or instead of going up at 4.5, it's still going up. And if it's a 4% inflation rate, after 17 years, you've stolen 50% of people's purchasing power. You lose that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The purchasing power is what you're going to have to look at downstream when you're looking for people to have X when I want to sit on the beach and drink my margaritas.
That's right. That's right. And full circle to the comment that you made earlier, which was a great point when we went off the gold standard. If you look at the value of the dollar from that point and then take that point back to 1913, and the most important date for 1913 is that's when the Federal Reserve was created.
Was created, right? Yep.
And at that very moment is when the value of the dollar just collapsed. 98% now, I think the value of the dollar has collapsed. And full circle again, come back to gold. Gold is my largest position in all of our clients' accounts. Some of it's 20%, some of it's 25%. And most financial advisors, they don't own gold because we're taught that it's a pet rock, it doesn't pay a dividend, why would you own it?
Right.
It's not sexy like NVIDIA or a hot stock of Microsoft or whatever it might be.
I think it should always be part of people's portfolios.
Here's a great statistic for you. Past 2 years, gold has outperformed the S&P 500.
Okay.
Since 2006, gold has outperformed the S&P 500. Never going to hear that on CNBC.
Yeah, I never heard that myself. And I see myself to be a little bit more educated on these things too.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's been a bumpy ride, but it's still outperformed it. But they tell, and we were literally taught this in American Express and even LPL, they would shy us away from gold funds or things metals, things like that. Yeah. Silver is also another component of our allocations. Just last week, I bought palladium and platinum because in times of turmoil,
palladium's been doing very well, right?
No, they've both been going down. That's why I bought them. Okay. So I bought them at the lows. I hope. We'll see, right? So but over time, you've seen the precious metals. Yeah. Those four particularly. Gold and silver.
Gold and silver.
Yeah. Palladium and platinum kind of truck along because they're more industrial metals. They're not really monetary metals. Like just gold's been money for what 5,000 years. Right? Correct. Gold's always going to be money.
Yeah.
Right.
How that happened, I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
why we picked gold? I mean, people liked yellow.
Yeah. Right. It was pretty. It was shiny. Yeah, it was shiny. Pretty, right. It's still shiny. It's still pretty. I still like it.
I know.
I still like it.
The bars are nice.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I usually carry a coin actually in my pocket when I talk to people. If I'm sitting at the restaurant and we're sitting next to a table and we're talking, we start talking with people. Oh, what do you tell your clients to put money in? I usually take it in my pocket. I go, here, this is it.
There you go.
Touch it, feel it, hold it.
Yeah, makes it real.
It does.
Tactile.
It does.
Yeah, people are tactile.
Yeah, and historically, gold has been a great holding against inflation.
A very good hedge against inflation. Over time.
And it's a fear hedge. When things come off the rails, gold tends to do really well. And ironically enough, again, Wall Street's big banks, central banks tell us it's a pet rock. Yet over the past several years, central banks